we can stop excusing ourselves. And as you said, I'm it. I've got to lead these kids. I've got to educate these kids. I've got to get these kids ready for life because the educational system is not preparing your children for life.
Welcome to the Men Over Mountain Project. I'm your host, Dalton Yateman, and here we band together to overcome life's most complicated mountains. Whether you are a father, husband, entrepreneur, or influencer, we find ways to take action and become a man over our mountains. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Men Over Mountain Project. I have a very special guest today, an author and advocate for parenting, or revolutionary parenting, and homeschooling. And today we're going to dive into that world and see why it is so important that we start taking responsibility for our children's life education and not just their curriculum. With that being said, let's all welcome Miss Denise Mira. How are you doing today, Miss Mira?
Oh, hello, Dalton. I am so good and so happy to be here with you today. Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. I know we didn't really have a whole lot of opportunity to stop and chat at your son Gabe's event here recently in Gatlinburg called Freeman Forge. But I think that this is a much better opportunity to sit down and kind of get some questions answered uninterrupted or undistracted. So thank you so much for coming on. I'm excited to hear a little bit more about what you have been advocating for what seems like a lifetime.
Wow, right? Well, it is so much fun to be here. And yes, my passion, my inspiration, my heart, my calling is to help parents raise leaders in their generation, not followers.
That's right.
In a world gone mad, actually. And so I am thrilled to be here and speak to you and your audience. And I'm just here to serve and help. So
with that being said, we'll go ahead and jump in a little bit. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your background, what brought you to this place of being such an advocate for this particular subject? Any history with it?
absolutely. Well, Dalton, I was raised without a faith emphasis, right?
Mhm.
So I grew up in public school, and I had great parents, as good as parents can be without the Lord, right?
Mhm.
We honored the name of God, but we were never taught what salvation was or any of that. So consequently, in high school, I became born again. Thankfully, God put someone in my path who my life was changed forever, in a nutshell. Because by then, feminism had its hooks in me for real. And those of you listening, and I know Dalton, you would see this in the world, media, school, everything around you, family generations had conditioned me to believe I needed a career. I needed independence. I was going to be powerful as a woman, right? I didn't need a man. A man was going to just kind of be, an add-on, a toy, for
Mhm.
future maybe. And kids, those kids weren't going to wreck my body, right? So I grew up just really believing kids were a snot-nosed inconvenience. And here I am, born again suddenly, and God begins to change our hearts. That's where life begins, right?
Mhm.
I feel emotional saying that right now, because as I look back, the Lord met me at a crucial juncture. Some of you listening are at a crucial juncture, a critical juncture. You've got choices and decisions, and the choices you make right now, today, are going to change everything about your future and your kids' future. And that's where I was, even though I didn't know it. I was young and single and stupid. And, I had my pom-poms and my football games and all the fun, but I found Jesus, and he grabbed me tight. And 6 months later, I graduated high school, and I was married to a pastor. That's all in a nutshell, right? The plot thickened. And the Lord began to just warm my heart to children. And as I began to have children, I don't know about you or you listening, but I loved my son, right? And I loved my next son and my next son. But as a mother, as a parent, I was lost. I knew Jesus. I loved them dearly. I was determined to disciple them, but
Mhm.
uh how to manage them, how to have happy children who obey, how to take them in public and know that they're not going to embarrass you or be ridiculously out of order, or how do I handle this? And Dalton, it so came to me as I was reading Bible stories to my children. Isn't this just how God works? Because when I was married, I had this high-powered government job and federal government. Every job description went across my desk. I was going to be the 6 and 7 figure gal. Well, now I'm a mom. I was not trained to be a mom. I was trained to be a career woman. I was trained, and that's what I see. We know how to build the nursery and put up curtains, pick the colors, and have the layout and the baby shower and the baby dedication at church. But who's training the parents to lead the children? Nobody was training me. And so I had these children I loved dearly, and I was reading the story of Amram and Jochebed. Now, those names may not ring a bell right now, but their little baby was named Moses. And they found themselves pregnant in the worst time in the world to be pregnant. You think it's hard now? Well, just imagine soldiers beating on your door looking for all male babies under the age of 2. And by the time it came to that, they were throwing them in the Nile, because plan A with the Hebrew midwives, if you know the story, and a lot of you listening would know the story, the Hebrew midwives were commanded to kill the babies, and their consciences for God wouldn't allow that. So that plan wasn't working for Pharaoh. So he said, okay, we'll just, let's make this simple. Let's just toss them in the Nile. So this couple found themselves pregnant. Now, a lot of you that have found yourselves pregnant, you freak out. Oh my God, it's purple, right? It is so sad. And that right there, if we can just pause and think about that, Dalton, how much anxiety and birth control. It's like the god of sex these days, birth control. Oh my God, because we can't risk another baby. And that's what culture has done to us. It has conditioned us to believe, even in the church is feminism light. Even in the church, we are all about the birth control pill and the whatever form you're using, IUD, whatever it is. I've used birth control. I'm not condemning anyone. What I'm saying is a mindset of children are a pain. Children are a burden. Children are blocking our goals. Children are expensive. OMG. Here I am on the other side of that, Dalton, with 5 sons who are leaders in their generation.
Amen.
Who are canceling death warrants of those around them, who are having an impact in business, in evangelism, in their neighborhoods, in their families, as fathers who are homeschoolers. Let me tell you, what I learned is that your children are your future. Your children are the best 401k you could ever imagine. Your children, Dalton, those little 1 through 8-year-olds right now, are your Bitcoin. Your children are the new Microsoft, the new Apple. I have goosebumps as I say it, because I am living in it. I FaceTime with my long distance kids last night. I'm watching their lives explode, blessing and prosperity and impact for Jesus Christ. So we're all frantic thinking we want sex, but we don't want babies. We are sorely misguided by the voices of our culture. And I'm going to remind you, this couple, Amram and Jochebed, they had the revelation, because when that baby boy, can we spell boy, at a time when boys were going to be killed, they looked upon him with eyes they saw in their spirit, and they said with their mouths, this is no ordinary child.
That's right.
This is not some little baby we have to hide. This is our future. This is tomorrow. This is the next generation. This is the next ruler of the ages. If we can get that in our spirit, and if they, in their poverty, they had nothing. In their lack of influence, they had no affluence, no influence, no voice in the king's ear. They had no connections. They had no big guy to help them. And so many of you out there, if you're like me, in my past, I'm looking for who can help me. Who's my connection? I was raised to think I needed to marry somebody rich because that's going to be my future. You're looking for something outside yourself to take you into your future. And here they're holding this little baby going, this little guy is the future. And they looked upon him and they saw, Dalton. No one told them. And see, that's where revelation comes in. We
That's
don't need
right.
more love for our children. Dalton, you couldn't love those 4 babies any more than you love them. You think oh, well, actually your love will grow so intensely that when they're 18, you'll just, your heart just continually loves and breaks for them.
Mhm.
Paul said, I'm in childbirth again and again for you, my children. And that's how we are as parents. But they saw, and it is up to us to get a revelation of what is in our children. And that's something that I love helping parents do. There's something that needs to break, and parents need to see, because when there's a revelation, the veil's ripped back,
That's
and,
right.
and we see something we've never seen before. So we can do something we've never done before. And a
That's right.
revelation in our hearts as parents, Dalton, and those out there listening, will bring a revolution in our household. And that's what
That's
happened.
right. And I
And
think that
yeah, go ahead.
many households start like mine, where you are the first generation patriarch, like father, first generation homeowner, business owner, and you seem to be the first one, the black sheep in the family that seems to kind of just get that revelation and realize that it's got to start with me. Whatever it is, it's got to start with me. And I think that most parents have to understand that as well, regardless of where they come from, whether their kids are a little bit older or if, they are brand new parents, is that this isn't just, it's not an obligation, it's a blessing to be able to train your children up in the way that they should go. And in order for your children to know the way that they should go, you have to invest in yourself as well. And you have to, especially if you did not have an example growing up, you didn't have a father figure in the household, your mother tried the best that she could, but there's always that power, that structure vacuum where the father's not in play. And but you have to understand is that there is this, all of that fear in that particular story with Moses was from the threat of what the future could look like if they allowed him to live, right?
Wow.
And so we look at that same concept in the mind of abortion, is that they have a fear of the potential future if this baby were to live because of their own selfishness, right? They don't see it as a blessing, they see it as an obligation. And so we have to take out that fear, even as parents who want to be intentional, is like, I'm not going to be afraid of the future anymore. I'm going to hand these children over to God. I'm going to, Paul even said, follow me as I follow Christ. And that's what we're doing with our children as well. We're coaching them, we're discipling them, we're pointing them in the direction that they should go. And to not be intentional is to freely sacrifice your children to the world.
That's a powerful statement right there, to not be intentional. And for those of you, and what you said about fatherlessness is an epidemic in our culture. We know that. And I love how you put that basically I'm it. And we want someone else to help us. We wake up in the morning, and as a coach, this. We want someone to coach us. We want somebody today to tell me, to make it better for me, to take away these feelings of dis-ease in my heart, I have to confess, raising 5 sons and waking up in the morning, home educating those 5 sons and knowing it was on me. I had a choice every single day. Every single day. I remember I could choose oppressive, heaviness, depression, gloom, forbearance, or not forbearance, but kind of a foreboding of how hard this day could be, how difficult. Or I could choose joy and declare, this is an awesome day and I'm going to change the world. Even as I go out and meet these 5 little guys who are depending on me. It is a decision to be intentional every single day. Great coaching, Coach Dalton. And fatherlessness. And I think so many fathers, they don't know how to be fathers. I had what I consider without having parents who would, in essence, lead us to Jesus. I had parents who led me well in the space that they were able to lead me. They were faithful. They showed up. They took care of us. They never left us. They never, I didn't see them drunk. They weren't abusive in the ways we see. So I had a good example in essence, but without Jesus, life is empty. Without Jesus, purpose is, cancel most everything without Jesus, right? So, but as a mother, I was not trained. I was trained to, I was raised by double income working people. I was trained that mama has a job and she's gone for 8-10 hours a day. And so it was a whole shift for me. I had to intentionally begin to learn this. And then the scriptures, because after I read that, I already had love and I was doing my best to disciple my children. But when I read that, it like the whole bar got raised. And I thought, okay, these are extraordinary leaders of tomorrow. We don't just need one Moses. We need millions of Moseses. We need millions of men like you, Dalton, leading the way for other men to lead their families, to first lead themselves and then to lead their families or their future families. So that's where it all began. And then as far as, we had a public school across the street. And as my firstborn began to get to the age of school, I was panicked. I just did not want to drop him off. Now I could, it was easy. It was a good school. We see that touted in all the real estate ads, great schools, or schools are level. What is a good school? What is a good drop off indoctrination camp? I'm just going to be real straight with you, because let me tell you what, Plato said, two things matter in the world. Two, who gets to teach the children and what do they get to teach them?
That's right.
Now, if we're looking, Dalton, at the most anxious, depressed, suicidal generation in the history of our nation, which we are, who is teaching the children and what are they teaching them?
That's right.
Because the fruit of what's going down in education is diabolical. And some of you listening, you're just dropping those kids off every day thinking everything's okay, because this is a drop-off culture. We are not raised to train our children. We are not raised to disciple our children. We are not raised to die to ourselves and live for our children. We are raised to drop the children off at the door. Christian women that were pregnant when I was pregnant, on staff at my church, were planning who was going to be the daycare where they drop their baby in 6 weeks. Now I think you get 12 weeks or something. And with all the extra leave and the government subsidies, you might get, I don't know, 4 months or whatever it is. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we have got an attachment crisis in 3 generations, because the daycare culture, the chickens have laid the eggs of the daycare, and the hens are here to roost. And if we can see this fruit, if we can stop excusing ourselves, and as you said, I've got to lead these kids. I've got to educate these kids. I've got to get these kids ready for life, because the educational system is not preparing your children for life. If suicide is rampant, obesity is an epidemic. Let's just go down the list of all. Families will be like, oh, we're great. The kids love us. Oh, but let's just push our finger a little bit deeper and see what's really going on in that household, with that marriage, in the chaos, with the kids that are out of control. Dalton, I think most parents can't wait to drop those kids off because they don't know how to control them. They're miserable with them. They don't even like them because they don't know the secrets that I want to share with you out there, that I want to share that. And that's my calling. That's who I am. I'm to help parents raise not followers, not ordinary, snotty-nosed inconveniences, pain in the butt kids, little punks who sit around while daddy does all the work. Those are not the kids you want to raise. You are raising the next generation. You are raising fathers and mothers. You are raising the leaders of our nations. You are raising the next doctors, lawyers, trash men, storekeepers. You are raising the next digital creators. How are they going to adult when your pattern of raising them is just dropping them off here at the next door and the next door and the next door and the next door? What is being what is being poured into them? Who's going to have their handprints on them? Who's shaping and forming the ethos of their lives, their mentality, their emotional intelligence? Who's making sure there's a lot of delayed gratification in there, because that's one of the number one factors in success or failure is an ability to all the things, you poke me and this all comes out because urgency. Amram and Jochebed had urgency in their spirit. They knew that little baby was going to start crying and going to cry loud, and who was going to beat on the door, and who was going to know, there was an urgency. And sometimes I think, Dalton, video games, screens, the next YouTube short is just lulling mommy and daddy to sleep. And there is not the urgency there needs to be to know you're going to turn around, and that little 8-year-old of yours, Dalton, can you believe 8? Are you kidding me? I remember that little bitty, isn't it the truth?
That's the truth.
And you know what? You're going to turn around 15, 20. And then you know what you're going to have? If you're not careful out there, what you're going to have is a little child in a 22-year-old body living in your basement. And no amount of bribery now, no amount of pushing, prodding, kicking them in the butt is going to change them, because you set the wet cement. And
that's the thing. There's a great analogy that I like to think of sometimes. They'll take baby elephants with the circus, and they will stake them onto the ground, right, with a rope and everything. And that elephant, when it's small, it will pull and pull and pull and pull, and it cannot take that stake out of the ground. Eventually, it stops trying. So then it gets older and older and older, and it understands that it can't pull that stake out of the ground, even though it is now capable to pull that stake out of the ground. Now, if you wanted to try to teach a full-grown elephant who knows it can push trees over how that he can't pull that stake out of the ground, you are sadly mistaken. So it is so much more important that we understand that intentionality in their youth, because it's a lot harder to train out the bad things than it is to train in the good things. And we have to see it, though. Here's the thing, is that one thing that I've heard in most parenting circles is, well, kids will be kids, and why would that hurt right now? And I believe that there is a fear of the future, right? And then there is a vision of the future. So there's two different things. One requires hope, right? So with our kids, we see that they are doing this small thing. For me as a father, I'm very forward-sighted, right? I like to see the big picture of things. If my kid is doing X, then I know that if I allow this to continue to happen, that it's going to grow and build and build and build. Now, kids in their terrible twos, they call them terrible twos because they don't really know what to do with a kid that's trying to be independent, right? All they're trying to do is find out how much power they have. And I've said this on prior episodes.
So
they're trying to figure out how much power they have. They're trying to figure out what their boundaries are. And here's the thing, they don't have the vocabulary to be able to ask you these questions in intentionality, to entrust into you as a parent. Hey, what is this? What is this? What is this? What is this? They will act, and your response, your intentional, purposeful response, will give them the answer they are looking for to the question they don't know how to ask. So whenever we have kids that are showing some creativity in certain areas, and we just keep saying, hey, I'm busy right now, you're not being intentional. You can actually take that moment, fill your kids' love tank, let them know that, hey, dad sees me, dad's proud of me. Like, you're actually speaking so much more into your children by the way that you respond to them than if you just push them away, right? It's
100%.
very important. And I didn't mean to take you off track or
No,
anything.
you say so many things that just trigger me. What you said just now, you said you take that moment. Here's the problem. Parents have auctioned their kids out to the highest bidder. So because their lives are insanity trying to keep up with all the pretty pictures on Instagram, all the pretty pictures on Pinterest, all the little things on Etsy, whatever. Stop the insanity.
Mm-hmm.
Families are spending 1/3 more than they're bringing in America.
Mm-hmm.
Double income families. We've got to take the knife to it. Jesus said something so brutal. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. If your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. Essentially, he was saying, stop the hemorrhaging. And I'm saying to families, stop the hemorrhaging. You don't have 1 minute to pause with your 2-year-old. And I'm passionate about this because you're spending so much money, so much time working. By the time you get home, you just want to pour a glass of wine and put that kid in front of a screen. Doesn't matter if he's been sitting at a desk all day. Doesn't matter if he's been at the daycare all day. You don't have time. We have all felt that pressure, haven't we? I've been there. I have felt that pressure when you're like a Instapot. You just need to release the steam before you explode and jump through the window, right? We've got to stop. We've got to stop long enough to evaluate, to assess our situation. If we do not have time and patience to get down on our knees with our little 2-year-old and look them in the eye and talk to them patiently and listen to everything they're saying at that moment, we have a problem. We have a problem. Bridge is out, trouble ahead. And so I think number one, if you're listening, oh, but Denise, I have these bills. Oh, but Denise, do you know what the taxes are in our state? Oh, but Denise, I have this mortgage. Oh, objections, excuses, objections, excuses, objections, excuses. Hit me up and prove me wrong. I can change your life today. I can shift everything for you today. Let's get on a phone call and let me show you how we can navigate your chaos and get you back to peace, because it's absolutely 100% doable. I don't care if you're over your head, 7 figures over your head. Let's talk. Because those little children aren't just 7 figures. They're not just 8 figures. And you don't know this yet, but I'm on the other side looking back at you saying, if you'll just hear what I'm telling you right now, if you're picking up what I put down right now, I can make your life. I can give you a dream life compared to what you're heading into. A couple other things that you said, Dalton. You talked about the wet cement, the baby elephant, in essence. That flexible, moldable, malleable little child is a picture of what that elephant is. And every day they're being conditioned to believe something. That is exactly who I was. So by the time I was 18, I was a feminist. I was not going to have babies. I was going to have a high-powered career. Abortion was convenient if we needed it. I'm just telling, who is conditioning that little baby that you're holding, right? Because here's the deal. NASA did a study, and this was so interesting. It was in the 60s, and they wanted to know what created genius, right? Where's genius? And they did a little test on 5-year-olds. And 98% of those 5-year-olds, those little guys and girls, they declared genius creativity factor. And they determined, the company, the guy that did this testing determined that creativity, thinking outside the box, critical thinking, thinking, I want to get up that slide at the playground and the steps are broken. How else can I do it? These little simple things. They declared that 5-year-olds, all the 5-year-olds they tested were 98% of them were genius creators. They waited a few years, tested them again, and the genius level began to drop. By the time they were adults, 18, something like that, genius creativity had gone down to 2% of that group of case study children. And they attributed it to schooling. Sit here, line up, fill in the blank. Let's cram all this down for the test, get a good grade, behave, please people, don't ask questions, don't question the teacher, don't do. And by the time they're 18, you have worn them down. They are, it takes them, it's a lot to resuscitate someone who's lost all that. Now it's possible. You might be listening with a 15 or a 17-year-old. Oh, hit me up because I have some answers for you. It's going to be, it's going to be let's take the knife to it. Let's slash some things to set them free. But that's what you're talking about, because by the time they're 18, they've been taught not to question anything. They've been taught that they know their place. They know that they are the cog in the system. They know, oh, let's just get a good government job. That'll answer all the prayers. Let's just, you hear me. So St. Francis of Assisi, I think, said, give me a kid till he's 7, then anybody can have it, because we are setting the mold. We are setting the mold. Now God is bigger than the mold, and Jesus Christ can break those molds. But I'm just saying, if you're listening and you have little ones, you are right now have so much power, so much
That's
power.
right. And you touched on a really good point, is that then those kids are that elephant in the opposite direction. Like now they're, what do you call it, tamed and told that, this is just where you fit. This is the box that you fit in. And, you're just like everyone else. Don't go out and say things that's going to get you canceled. And that's what it's about. They need a sheep-like society. So, and one of my favorite quotes from your book, No Ordinary Child, was, you would not even trust your credit cards with your best friends. Why would you trust your children with them? Meaning, that something so precious as your credit cards, you won't share that with the people that you trust the most. Why would you trust like the school systems who you don't even see, who you don't even know, people you don't even, that don't care about you, they just show up. Why would you allow those people to pour into your children without any like barrier? Like it's really sad. It really is.
So true. Well, you said it. We've been tamed. We've been tamed. We've been conditioned. That is a powerful word. I had goosebumps all over me. Most parents today have been tamed, especially men, because that was the agenda ever since Pharaoh, before Pharaoh, I mean, time immemorial. Let's kill the men. If we even rewind to all the comedy shows and every commercial we watched growing up, I don't know if video games are like this. I've not played video games, but I'm just saying, if you look at the toys and the cartoons, dad is a buffoon. Dad doesn't have the answers. Let's destroy the men. And so the men, even at several of the relationships I have with families who their kids have gone trans on us, the men are sitting back quietly, just kind of, they're tame. The woman is out there directing the children, okaying the mentality, saying yes to the rainbow insanity. Let's love, let's accept, and the man's just standing there. He's been tamed. He wants to behave because you get A's, you get straight A's if you just sit down and shut up and do what you're told. So
it's that fear of conflict.
Say that again.
It's that fear of conflict with his wife. He's sitting back. Yeah, he doesn't want any confrontation. It's fear. It is fear. The fear is what causes you to be tamed, because you're afraid of the consequences. But if you're not afraid of anybody but God, then the only thing you fear is God. Therefore, you're not going to be tamed. You're going to be empowered, right? So fear of people, fear of the world, fear of confrontation with people will just cause you to sink back in seclusion and not do anything with your life, not be intentional with your kids, not be intentional with your business, because you are afraid of the consequences. You're afraid of being that sore thumb that's just sticking out of in front of everyone else. And because that sore thumb is going to get hit every single time. All right. But with that being said, we'll jump in to
so true.
To how do you define revolutionary parenting, and how does it differ from traditional parenting approaches?
I think traditional parenting is everything we've been talking about. Let's raise a normal kid who can't think for himself, who's indoctrinated by a system. I don't care if it's a private system or a public system. We're still looking at traditional classroom education was never meant for humans. And do you know that the faith retention rate, because a lot of Christians will say to me, well, at least they're in private schools. Do you know that the faith retention rate for the kids in private schools isn't much different? Private Christian schools than kids in the public schools. So we are talking about taking what is normal and turning it on its ear, upside down.
That's right.
Dalton, it's like this. When we've lived in the subnormal for so long, and that's where we've been living as for now, how many generations? Where everything is predictable, all the men are tamed, all the kids are indoctrinated, when we've lived in the subnormal for so long, and the normal shows up, the leader kid, we think it's abnormal. So there is a normal we are settling for. That's really not God's normal. God's normal is that you raise leaders in your home. Here I was just happily homemaking and doing my best to be a godly woman and wanting to raise my kids. I wanted my kids to shine. I didn't know how to tap into the leadership potential in them. And I didn't even realize what that meant. And so revolutionary parenting is when you take the tools God's given us and given you, and you create leaders in your home rather than followers. And that is an entire process system. When God began to give me this revelation, I just began to journal. And then anytime anybody would give me a microphone or ask me to share it at women's Bible study or a men's retreat or whatever, this would come pouring out. It is a massive difference. Think about revolution. Think about revolution in countries where you had a leadership functioning. Communist dictators came in and they turned the whole thing upside down. Let's think about, in a positive light, let's think about our founders who came across the ocean on the rickety boats, risking their lives. And they came here to set up a new place, right? Okay. And then the Brits came and tried to take us over, and there was revolution. They already had their controls on us, right? And then there was the Boston Tea Party, and then there was John Adams and all George Washington, all Benjamin Rush, all the people, right? And they said, we will not live under this government any longer. We will revolt. We will have a revolution. So if you can picture your household right now, it's under one government. Okay. It's being governed by so many voices in most cases. You've got a little bit of Oprah, and you've got a little bit of James Dobson, and you got a little bit of positive, thinking, and you've got a little bit of Tony Robbins, and you've got this government over your home that is confusion and chaos, and you're raising children that are not going to be extraordinary. They're going to be confused. So what we're doing is we are upending the governmental system that is over your life first, mom and dad, over your children's life. It trickles all the way down to the babies. We are revolting. We are turning that upside down. That's what I'm going to be helping you understand more. We can't get into all of it, but I've got an upcoming masterclass called Revolutionary Parenting Live. I'm going to give you the nuts and bolts, and I'm going to give you the recipe, because Dalton, do you ever cook?
Absolutely, every day.
You do. Okay. And do you ever use a recipe? If it's a really intricate, it's really something you want it to, whether it's beef bourguignon wrapped in pastry, have you ever done one and you absolutely needed a recipe?
Absolutely.
And in that recipe, there's going to be ingredients. And if you miss even 2 of those ingredients, what happens?
It's not the same.
That recipe falls flat, right? And if you don't have, you might even have the recipe, but when you have the person who created the recipe show you how to on video, it just goes up, right? And that's what I'm going to do at Revolutionary Parenting Life. I'm going to give you my recipe for revolutionary parenting. And I am going to show you tangibly how to get hold of those handles of that recipe. And because if you have a recipe, your cake's going to turn out great. Your beef bourguignon, naan, your shish kebabs, whatever it is, that Thai curry. And so revolutionary parenting is a whole nother way of looking at your life, your world, your children, and it's turning upside down the things that have to go, and it's implementing new pillars in your household that change everything. And this is what's so cool. It actually simplifies life. It doesn't, like parents out there, I can just hear them. Oh, I can't do one more thing. I'm trying so hard already. I can't even hardly get I need 3 cups of coffee before I can even face my 2-year-old. No. What we're going to do is we are going to shift your universe. And you're going to notice that when you implement the principles of revolutionary parenting that go everywhere from how they go to bed to how they wake up to what education system you're going to use, it actually takes so much pressure and weight and what all the do's and all the don'ts and all the shoulds and it brings you life and freedom. It's going to set you free. It's going to set you free, mom and dad, because Jesus came that we might have life abundantly. He came to set us free. And what this world system wants to do, what your educational system wants to do, in many cases, what your church wants to do is just put you in more shackles. And I love Jesus and I'm the church, but I'm telling you, legalism and rules and all the stuff I see on so many parenting things just makes your life harder and puts you in more bondage and fear and uncertainty. No, this is a sure way to raise your children. So revolutionary parenting begins at the foundation, and we start with mama and daddy, and it trickles down to the kids, and everything changes. It shifts everything. As I said, when the revelation comes, the revolution is free to happen at home. So we go from raising normal kids who are stuffed full of stuff by media, by school, by their well-meaning grandparents and aunts and uncles. Your kids are like being filled up with so much, right? And we shift that to children who can think for themselves, who are emotionally intelligent, who are going to lead in their generation. And it's not about personality. Oh, my little Sally is introverted. Don't care. Every single one of us has a calling to lead. What is leadership? It's influencing. It's guiding others in the way that they should go. It is, I don't care if you're a Tony Robbins leadership personality, or if you're more of a quiet, introverted personality, you are leading. And you know what? People depend on you. Today, Dalton, do you know what? They're waiting for your voice. Your kids are waiting for you. Those of you listening, your children are looking to you for leadership. They're out of control because you're not leading them. Because so many parents have not been trained to lead them. I have such compassion. They don't know what to do. I didn't know what to do, but now I know what to do. And now I can show you what to do. I can give you the secrets I learned and the tools God gave me to lead, to train your children, to form them, that baby elephant, to be the bold, courageous leader, to not let fear drive them anymore, because our whole culture is fear. We're looking on the news right now. What is that all meant to do? And you know what? It's nothing new under the sun. We've been seeing this kind of chaos in our news, on our Instagram reels for years, right? Back in the day on our 3 channels and then on our cable, these dramatic, horrible things were made to cause fear, to cause us to step back, to, just hang on, just maintain, Dalton, maintain your household and your marriage and your kids. It's going to be okay. You can survive it. People say, how did you survive raising 5 boys? Are you kidding me? Wow. Are you kidding me? Survive? How? No, let's rewind that tape. I thrived. I loved it. It was awesome because I knew where I was going and what I was doing and how to lead these 5 powerful men with all that testosterone. Because right now what they'll do is they'll put your little boys, they want them to behave, so they'll put them on Ritalin, they'll put them on whatever it takes to get them to tame down, to be acceptable, right, Dalton?
Absolutely. I was in the public school when I was growing up, and I was on Ritalin and Zoloft and a bunch of other things as well. And so it wasn't until the last day in my household where was the last migraine, stress migraine that I ever had. Didn't touch any more medication, anything like that. You know what? I was just fine. I didn't even know that I was like I've been told I had ADHD my entire life because just I was, like a firecracker, of course. But it's not so much that you can't focus. It's that you are focused on everything at the same time. And so, with that being said, all of our kids, they have that ability to use all the sensory, you know, aspects, our sight, our smell, all our hearing, all of that, right? They all can be exposed to anything that can influence them, right? And you don't know what they're going to catch and what they're going to keep, right? So it's very important for us to put the rails up. And I see kids sometimes like ping pong balls, so they're just kind of bouncing all over the place and they're not delegated, they're not being shown the direction to go, whereas they should be like a bowling alley where you have the rails up and they might bounce off the corners and off the boundaries and everything. But you know what? They're not going to go into the gutter where they're not supposed to go. And they're probably going to have a win here and there because they have some structure. They're going to knock down a couple pins. Okay. That's just how it goes. But the thing about it is we have to start signing our own declaration of independence within our household. We talk about revolution. We need to declare that our household is going to be full of freedom, and that includes spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical freedom, right? And we do not have to, draw, a color inside the lines when it comes to parenting. Okay. You know your kid better than anyone else, right? And we have someone here who is a professional. And I've been in Orlando staying in a room with your son, and he's been on the phone with you, and he's just, confiding in you. Like y'all have a great relationship. There's even a coaching and teaching relationship. If he has questions, he calls you. And, I noticed that and I was like, man, that is unique. That is unique. I haven't seen that in very many relationships when it comes to parents, right? Most days, there's a lot of resentment for parents for that do not, take initiative to be intentional with your kids, right? If you're always seen as a burden as a kid, you will grow up feeling as if you are a burden, right? And people who are a burden tend to not be bold and courageous in their actual creativity and their imagination and problem solving skills. They will continue to just say, you know what, I'm not worthy, I'm not enough. Like, you don't want these timid kids who are always going to be dependent on you, dependent on the government, dependent on all of the social, cultural aspect of things because they just want to fit in, right? And people who fit in, they're just hiding, right? The Bible even tells us we're not even supposed to conform to this world, right? We are to stick out. We're supposed to be weird. We're supposed to be, taking ground. Okay. One of the better quotes that I heard from this event recently was, what is the purpose of war? It is victory. And what is the purpose of victory? Occupation. How are we have this conviction, right? We know that, hey, we're not parenting well enough. We're not intentional enough. Maybe we don't have the information that we need. You know, we don't have any examples from our own relationship with our own parents, and so we have that conviction that we're like, okay, I know something's got to change. And, but I just don't know what to do about it. Right. Well, here's the thing. The next step after conviction is commitment. You have to commit to learn. You have to commit to placing those processes and those guidelines, as you were talking about, into action. And you have to be committed and consistent with that. Because here's the thing. If you have one parent who's saying one thing and another parent who's saying another thing, then your kid is not going to learn the right direction they should go because you are not united in the effort, right? It is time that you sign your Declaration of Independence, hop on to this event with Miss Denise, and learn what you need to learn, right? Take notes and say, okay, this looks like it. We can apply this into our life today, right? And allow her to coach you through the process. It's a shortcut. It's a shortcut to success. You don't have to continue to bounce, like a ping pong ball all over the place as a parent, just trying to picking up small things from here and small things from there, and just trying to implement that into your life. Start out with a blueprint. Allow it to thrive in a godly household the way that God created family to be. With that
Mm.
being said, where can people find you? And I'm going to post the link and everything in the description for your event. And I look
Yes,
forward to
well,
seeing everyone
and
there.
you had mentioned the event. I just want to make a special offer for your audience, Dalton. This is the book that I wrote, and so much of what I'm sharing is
Mhm.
this is so much of the recipe. There's so much more. I've got a couple more books behind the scenes yet to release that are going to just be icing on the cake. But listen, I want to offer this book. I if you want a copy of my book for free, you
Good.
can hit me up at denisemira.com. That's the best place to reach me. You can click a button and email me. I'm even going to give Dalton my phone number and private email for you. He can put it in the show notes. Hit me up, and all you got to do is pay shipping and handling. I will send this book to you. And guess what I'll do then? I will bonus in for you 2 free VIP tickets to my upcoming event, Revolutionary Parenting Live. Okay.
Wow.
Because I want to give you the recipe. I want you
Mm.
to have everything you need. I want you, so much of what we've been sharing here, that is just the seed bed. I want you to wake up in the morning with joy in your heart. I want you
Mm.
to wake up in the morning, moms and dads, and know the next step. I want you to wake up in the morning with freedom in your household, not bondage and fear and having to drop the hammer to get the kids to do what she's. I want you
Mm.
to wake up in 20 years with your kids like I do and have 5 leaders who not only coach me but yes, call me for advice, who are
Mm.
leading in their generation, who are making, yes, they're prospering, they're making money, they're doing well, they are doing well at every level, they love Jesus, they're anchored to Christ. I want that to be your future reality. And so I would urge you to come where we can really unpack this in my master class later. It's just a short time away. So if you would like a free copy of my book, just hit me up. You can Venmo me the shipping and I will shoot that out to you. And yes, please. So denisemira.com is the great place to get me. On there, you'll see where to get my socials and all the rest, but just my name.com is a great place to start, Dalton. And I am just so blessed to be here. And thank you so much for your sharing and your heart. I've so enjoyed just the interaction and to hear your heart as a father and as a revolutionary husband and father and leader, a man who's waving his hand and saying, yes, I volunteer, I will do this, I am a world changer, because that's who our kids are. They are not ordinary, they are
Right.
extraordinary. And my book, that's why I called it No Ordinary Child, unlocking the leader within your child, because that leader is just waiting for your touch, they're just waiting for your voice, they're just waiting for your time, they're just waiting for a few tweaks in your household that will change everything. And on that day of the masterclass, you're going to get some quick wins. You're going to walk out of the masterclass, it's virtual, but you're going to
Mm.
walk away from your laptop and say, everything's changed. Even though nothing's different in front of my eyes, everything's changed because it's changed in here. And now I know what to do. And so we're
That's
going to have
right.
a great time.
You're not walking in the darkness anymore, or the blind leading the blind. You have a
Yes.
direction. Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
lot harder to lead when you don't know where you're going. So thank you so
Oh,
much for your time. And just one quick note. So far, I love the book. I'm about an hour from finishing it. I do a lot of driving. And my wife, she heard me last night listening to it while I was cooking. And she's like, how do you even hear that? And because I have it on 2X, and I was like, ADHD.
I love it. I love it. Great. Oh, and that's actually one of our, when you're VIP,
Mhm.
that's one of the bonuses that your listeners will get is a copy of the audiobook. So I
Love
love
it.
to do it while I drive too, and I do it on 2 speed too.
Well, thank you
Oh,
so much for joining.
awesome. Thank you so much for having me today. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you all so much for joining, and I hope to see you on the Revolutionary Parenting event. I will leave those links in the notes below. Make sure that you get in there before the event starts. And we'll make sure to get some questions answered for you on the story. Most of the time, we will answer your questions from Instagram here on the podcast, but we're going to go ahead and try something different today. We're going to post your questions in the story and have Miss Denise answer them on Instagram. So we will see you over there as well. God bless and have a good day.